What's something you should always keep in your car? By Ask Reddit. A fire extinguisher. About 2 years ago I was in the car with my parents when all of a sudden the gears stopped responding and smoke started coming out of the front and back. We parked on the side of the road, opened the front, and a piece, I think it was the battery, was burning. It was only put out because a man who was passing by riding a motorcycle quickly stopped, took off his jacket, soaked it in water from a bottle that he had with him, and covered the fire with it. Turns out he was an ex-fireman. You probably shouldn't always count on being that lucky.
You got really, really lucky. You're very unable to put out a vehicle fire if your car catches on fire, and you're unlikely to really even be able to open the hood. Usually if a car lights on fire, it's gone. They are more useful if someone else has a crash and their car lights on fire. If you catch an accident right after it happens, you can potentially put out a fire caused by the accident. This allows correctly trained people to extract the occupants of the other car instead of dragging them out and possibly harming or killing them in the process.
Pro tip: large trucks carry fire extinguishers. My employer's trucks have 2 each. A small one in the cab and a 4 kilograms above the near side drive wheels. About 6 months ago, I saw a car broken down on the hard shoulder of a motorway. Because of the terrain, I could see under the car, and the flames under the front. I pulled off and stopped ahead of the car, grabbed the big extinguisher and ran toward it. As I came close I shouted to the driver to get out. Nothing. Get out of the effing car. Right now. Out. Out. The car is on fire. Get out. The driver didn't get out and I triggered the extinguisher under the car, still yelling. The flames abated, but wouldn't go out completely. Something burning was dripping from the engine bay where the extinguisher couldn't reach. I ran to the driver's door to get the bonnet release, and the reason for the lack of response became apparent: the driver wasn't in the car. I looked toward the roadside, and saw him standing under a tree, looking confused and more than a little terrified. Open the bonnet. He unlatched it and I crouched down and to the side to open it. No fireball, and I hit the remaining flames with the extinguisher. Crisis over. He hadn't realized the car was burning until the screaming maniac with the fire extinguisher turned up. I left it with him and carried on. My employer's reaction? Generally positive. Sure. It cost them a fire extinguisher, but a burning vehicle would have closed the motorway for up to an hour, delaying dozens of our trucks, on a Friday afternoon. So yeah, trucks carry fire extinguishers.
Cool that your employer was cool with it, and could see the bigger picture.
Also, never open the hood if you suspect a fire. It will only add more oxygen. Get out of the car where it's safe to do so, far away from anything else, roadway, structures, cars, tall grass, and get away from the vehicle. Edit, if you can do so safely, and the car is brought to a complete stop in a safe area, pop the hood latch under the dash before you exit, as fire crews will be able to access the engine bay, as Tisket_Wolf has mentioned below. This is important, as either electric or cable hood releases will likely not work once the vehicle is on fire. If you value the skin on your face and hands, do not open the hood when you see smoke, not steam, or fire. It goes without saying that if your car has overheated, and you see steam, do not open the radiator cap. Wait for the car to cool before investigating, so again, do not open the hood. Get the vehicle to a safe spot, get the hell away from it safely, and call emergency services. Even with a fire extinguisher, the chance of getting burned, or wounded from an explosion, when tires catch fire they pop, and depending on the tire, they are often full of razor-sharp steel belts. Not worth the risk when insurance will get you another car. I am a former volunteer firefighter, and I have worked on, raced cars in my spare time. I am also a former weather forecaster with good knowledge of convective air currents. Combustion requires oxygen, as well as a means to breathe, so opening your hood will allow heated air to rise, pulling fresh air in from underneath the vehicle and exacerbating the problem. Edit 2. One vehicle fire that I actually came upon was a 90s Chevy Cavalier that had gone up on an off-ramp off of I-64. The owner had parked it in a good spot, and got back. A crowd of people coming in to work at our local military base started to pull over and block traffic. One hero, and mind you, this thing was already up in flames, decided he would save the day by pouring 2 jugs of windshield washing fluid onto it, which contains alcohol. He ended up getting burned bad. Now Ems is blocked in by the backed-up traffic, and that idiot got to writhe in pain as he crawled back to us, all for the sake of an old Chevy Cavalier that didn't even belong to him. If you see someone in need of help, and have the ability, pull over in a safe location and assist the people to safety. Don't try to be a hero to save a car, and don't rubberneck or impede traffic just to take a video. You'll just impede emergency services or become a statistic yourself. A racing channel I watched 1320 video has a video of a white Audi that caught fire while street racing. Check it out on YouTube if you want to see what these situations look like.
Jumper cables.
Tire repair kit plus tire inflator.
Or a spare. Remember when cars used to come with spare tires? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I spent about 10 minutes searching for a spare on my Toyota Sienna. I finally discovered that I have run flats, which was nice as far as not having to deal with changing the tire in the dark and the cold. Not as nice when I had to pay for new tires. What confused me was the fact that I have the scissors jack. They put run flats on it because a donut won't work with the AWD and they're too cheap to give you a full-sized spare, but somehow it's not too expensive to give you the stupid scissors jack that you'll never need. Edit, I was mistaken about the reason for run flats and no donut. Please stop telling me about your Subarus. Open mouth smile.
I understand you can't be hauling around a floor jack in your car, but let me tell you, them pooty little jacks are some of the dicey east moments of my life.
You, Roger Simon 10.
Toolkit, jumper cables. Good snow removing tool, if it snows where you live, and dicer.
I'm paranoid enough in the wintertime to always have boots, gloves, water and a blanket too.
I live in a more urban area but frequently travel into the mountains for work. I throw in a gallon of water, a sleeping bag, and a change of clothes suitable for mountain weather. A firefighter friend has pulled a number of dead bodies out of car accidents where the accident only killed the car, the people froze to death. One that sticks out is a pair of college-age girls heading up to meet friends at house in Tahoe. They drove up wearing bikini tops, in winter, and froze to death after sliding of the highway. I don't know if they had warmer clothes they just didn't change into or if a friend had their bags in a separate car, but he was pretty bummed out about that one. If those girls had a wool blanket, sleeping bags, or coats they'd have been cold, but alive.
I imagine that would be one of the hardest things of being in emergency response. Seeing all the deaths and injuries that could have been completely preventable with an easy fix.
I live in a desert community near Death Valley. One summer maybe 10 years ago, a woman and her 11-year-old son were traveling the 30-mile stretch of desert between the main town and a smaller nearby town when her car died. There was and is still no cell service on that road, and I guess no one stopped to help, so they ended up stranded. They were only stranded for a few hours, but it was 120 F and they didn't have water. The son quickly succumbed to heat stroke and died. Ever since that happened, I have packed a day's supply of fresh water for each person in the car before any trip out of town. I have my normal emergency kit as well, but the water is something I have to be mindful of because I can't keep it stored in my car, especially in the summer months. No amount of technology or modern connectivity can replace good preparation for emergencies.
I lived in a town just outside of Death Valley. It was summer and I was in a small shop in town when some European folks came in saying they were headed to Death Valley and were each buying a 16 ounces water bottle for the trip. Both the shop owner and myself told them, please buy at least 3 gallons per person. They looked at us lean we were crazy.
I don't think people from Europe especially appreciate the sheet amount of nothingness in the US.
Yep. White Sands, New Mexico is an extremely easy hike across beautiful white sand dunes. You can even go barefoot as long as you're wearing a hat, but a European tourist or two has died from the heat almost every year since 2015. The rare deaths before that were also of people from other countries or regions of the US.
Actually, you get used to it really fast. Because absolutely no victim in history woke up and thought, today's the day I'm going to have to fight for my life. People who anticipate dangers mitigate them because of course they do. They see the threat and respond. Every victim I've ever seen never saw it coming. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's true. You hear, I didn't think, or I didn't see, a lot. So I'm a firefighter. I can't unsee the things I've seen. I have a smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector in every room. Extinguishers mounted at every exit door. And because it'll be a cold day in hell before I'm the firefighter who loses his kids to a fire, I have a 2.5-gallon water extinguisher next to my bed. My 3-year-old is already trained on what to do when the fire alarm goes off. Want bet someday I'll be looking at my phone walking to get the trash can and get crushed by a passing car? Or heart attack? All I know is fire isn't going to get me. I have its number and trained to see it coming a mile away. But that's only just one thing out of the billions of things that might get you. And I'll never see it coming.
As a nurse, I can tell you, prepare for everything and still get fed by cruelty. Just buckle up and enjoy the ride. None of us are getting out alive.
I haven't died yet. There is no proof I will.
Of the approximately 100 billion people who have ever lived, approximately 8 billion of them are still alive. Therefore, the chance of death is only 92%.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Absolutely. I know you can't plan for the multitudes of freak accidents or anything like that. I just meant simple things, like the comment above with the girls in bikini tops who froze to death. Maybe just a jacket could have saved their lives. Or the hold my beer stunts where someone does something stupid. Like you said, I just didn't think. It's just sad to me. Obviously those people don't mean to die or lose a leg, but just one little thing changed their lives forever. I work in an outpatient therapy clinic and we just started seeing a patient who slipped while dancing in her kitchen because she didn't realize someone had just mopped and she shattered her jaw. I guess like you say you get used to it in your line of work, but it still blows my mind. I could never do what you do, so thank you for keeping the rest of us idiots safe. I've been a paramedic for 21 years. Almost everything we see is preventable in some way, whether it's trauma or medical.
Another good thing that doesn't really help with all accidents but can help some is some form of no perishable, not quickly perishable comfort food, like potato chips and granola bars. Shock is a serious possibility in an accident and you may need something to help jump-start you back into drive. Some form of easy-to-swallow digestible that is familiar can really help with that. I always have a few granola bars and snack-sized Original Lay's in my glove box plus center console, and there's usually a boxed bag of both in my trunk too. Sadly, you can only keep the dips bars in the winter because they'll probably melt in the summer, but I also really like the Nature Valley Crunch ones, so I didn't have any issue with it.
Individual peanut butter packets. Individual Nutella packets. I keep them in a hiking bag for summer and pretty much just leave it in the car over winter.
Remember, folks, if you have to run your engine to stay warm, don't do it inside a garage and make sure the tailpipe is clear and unblocked. A bunch of Texans just died because they were new to this piece of information. If you have a snowstorm emergency kit, print that out and put it on top so you can't miss it and can't forget it.
Asterisk prepared, not paranoid smiley face.
Paranoid.
Finally, a word that describes me. I'm stealing this.
That's not paranoid at all. Most Canadians have this. Not water though. Ice isn't going to help much.
For snow removing, highly recommend something in the vein of Snow Joe, Snow Brum. So much faster than the traditional brush.
I personally recommend my long-ass spaghetti arms, very efficient and fairly sturdy. I've been using them for a long time and they've only ever let me down once, in gym class.
Blanket.
I'd upgrade that to a 20F0F, 20C sleeping bag. Still cheap, still compact, still good at any temperature, but so much nicer when it's needed. Edit. Meant 0F20C, but same idea, prepare for the worst.
Oh man, I've got one of these for backpacking and honestly it's too warm most of the time. Wind up sleeping with it fully unzipped, 3 limbs sticking out. It's especially awkward because it's a mummy bag, so it doesn't just fold open neatly. Still, I'm glad that I have it when the temperature starts dropping past 50.
Surprised I had to scroll so far for this. Blankets are important if you break down in a cold rural location, but also if you get too lit at the party you can sleep it off before driving home. Update, looks like folks are saying you can get arrested for sleeping in your car. Please avoid getting a DUI by using your car blanket to make a blanket fort. If the cops don't know the secret password, you have no legal obligation to let them into your blanket fort probably. P.S. Be aware of your local statutes.
This is why owning a minivan is effing awesome. I have a tri-fold memory foam mattress and a nice blanket that lives in my car. On more than one occasion I have folded down the seats and took a lovely sleep.
This is why owning a minivan is effing awesome. Words we forlorn children of the 80s thought we'd never live to hear.
God, I remember my mom's Dodge Grand Caravan with the big wood accent strip on the sides. Died out when I was 15 and pushed hard to get something cool I would be able to drive in a year. Almost got a Toyota 4Runner. Ended up with the new Dodge Grand Caravan.
A lot of places in the USA will give you a DUI if you are sleeping it off.
Canada checking in, almost got a DUI for sleeping it off in the back of my minivan. We had 2 DDs, pregnant wives, but we had left the headlights on, so it was dead by the time we got back. We called a cab, but it could only take 4 of the 7 US, so my buddy and I were left with the dead van while the 2 sober drivers drove to go get a car so they could jump the van and drive it back. Cops found us passed out spooning in the back. Took the keys off of me and said that we were being charged with a DUI. I thought it would all be okay when they couldn't start the car with the keys, but the F'ers still charged us, and it took months before we could see a judge who did end up throwing the whole thing out. Bunch of assholes.
They're kinda promoting DUI by making sleeping in your car punishable.
Father, that just sounds like a law intended to punish homeless people.
That's the original intent of the law, yes.
Do cops get a prize for giving out DUIs or something? Cause WTF.
Same in the UK. If the keys are in the ignition, even if the engine isn't running. I know of at least one friend who lost his license this way.
This happened to a friend of mine. Cops asked him where are the keys. He had them left outside on top of the passenger side wheel. Could not touch him.
Also some water bottles.
Sleep at the party. Depending on the weather, the car would be too cold. The alcohol would make the cold worse as it stops your body from reducing the blood flow to extremities. Also, if you have your keys, you can still get a DUI as you are in control on the vehicle. Edit, fixed a typo.
It's absurd that a person can get a ticket by only sleeping inside the car. After all, you're not driving. I know it's just an excuse to rob our money.
It depends on where you're sleeping. In the driver's seat? Decent, you'll get a DUI, especially if it's running. If you're in the passenger seat or the back, you can make a believable argument that you were using the car for shelter and sleeping it off. If you're in the driver's seat, then it's easy to argue that you were so drunk that you passed out before you could leave. Add in sitting in the passenger seat wrapped up in a blanket, and it's even harder to argue that you were going to drive drunk.
Unless you're the Chicago police superintendent. Yep, he was never charged.
Yes, I know. That disgusted me when I read about it. He should have been arrested and subsequently fired.
He did ultimately get forced out, but not before also getting embroiled in ARP scandal.
Yeah, but this way you have your own blanket. Phone charger.
A spare charger. One that you know it's in good condition and will work on case of emergency. Chargers in a car tend to get beat up and fail.
Yes. When my partner and I first started dating, I thought it was pretty weird that he kept an array of chargers in a waterproof container in his car. 3 years later, those chargers have saved our butts so many times.
Do not keep condoms in your car. The latex breaks down under heat and are susceptible to breaking when you use them.
Other condom facts in case anyone here actually had the opportunity to a condom. Keeping condoms in your wallet, purse makes them degrade faster. Replace them every 3 months, I think. Lipsticks and balms can also make them less effective too.
If your condoms are sitting in your wallet for more than 3 months without being used, then there's really no reason to keep them in your wallet, lol.
As someone who had the same one in my wallet for around 1.5 years, that hurts.
I know that feel, bro. I've bought a box of condoms when I got a new girlfriend, and then watched them all hit their expiration date years later.
I bought a 32 box when I entered my freshman year of high school. Just finished my bachelor's and it's still in the wrap.
Oof.
Money. I always keep a $20 bill hidden in my car in case I need to buy food, water, gas, pay a toll, etc. And don't have a debit card. I keep €200, around $240, because you never know.
A few years ago, the area I lived in lost power for an extended period of time. Gas was short, so even places with generators didn't have power. Places wouldn't take debit cards because there wasn't the capability. And ATMs were soon empty, and places ran out of small bills to give change when people showed up to buy goods. After that, I started putting all my singles and $5 bills into an envelope in my house at the end of each week. It is only about $300 as I don't use cash that often, so there are usually only a few bills to add to it each week, but I feel much better having it, because as you said, you just never know.
Dash cam.
Front and back dash cam.
More vehicles should come with built-in cameras as standard. I've seen a few posts of Teslas with their 360-degree camera coverage and it's absolutely incredible. Total peace of mind. Unless you're a terrible driver, I guess, then it'd suck.
I don't get why insurance companies aren't adding incentives for having them. It saves their ass more than anyone else. Also yes. Car manufacturers should have them built into every new car. Backup cameras are already required. Wouldn't require much extra work to add a front camera and storage system for the data.
BC They benefit more from denying insurance from questionable accidents than they would by clearing the accidents up.
Again, the answer to, why isn't this quintessential common sense idea practiced, is, because money.
Humans are the real Ferengi.
Couldn't wait to get a dash cam. My dad got me one Christmas 2019. It was a Rove brand. He also bought me a large Samsung micro SD card to go with it. Had it for 3 weeks before it was the reason someone broke into my car overnight.
The goal is to make it look like you don't have one. A mini one hidden right next to the rear view mirror with the cables tucked away is a good option.
An escape tool, at least $50 in cash.
I second this. You get one for fairly cheap, and the one I have also comes with a built-in seatbelt cutter at the bottom end. I hope I'm never in a situation where I need to use it, but knowing I have it in my car gives me some sort of tranquility, lol.
Never had to use the business end, but the cutter is the reason why I still have legs after the only bad accident I've ever been in. The engine block collapsed shortly after I got out of the car. Edit, because I was asked how the engine block collapsed. I was hit by a drunk driver in an F350, and the angle of the collision destroyed the front part of the car. The block collapsed because nothing was holding it.
Flashlight.
Headlight keeps the hands free to work.
I keep 2 headlights in my car just in case. It's helped on numerous occasions while driving in the dark.
Lol, yeah, I call them headlamps because of that.
I carry a bat that has a flashlight in the end. It also has a pulsing light feature to blind attackers and then the bat part to whack attackers.
Damn, you got a link. I have some mall ninja friends that would be delighted I knowing about this.
I don't know if it would be the same brand as Op, but I bought one exactly like he described from Walmart.
Sadly, as it stands, my nearest Walmart is about a continent and a half away from me. I think it might be difficult for me to go there for any sort of purchase.
Sadly, as it stands, my nearest Walmart is about a continent and a half away from me. This is a blessing, not a curse.
You mean the TACBAT?
Tube sock on the wacky bit so they pull the sock off and not the bat out of your hands.
Water.
This is excellent advice. It's even better if you combine it with a water bottle. Also, blankets and non-perishable snacks will make a breakdown much more bearable.
I keep my water loose in my trunk to save money.
I see you two own a DC-5 Integra.
I had a 90 Integra. To my surprise, and even more so to my friends in the back seat, I also kept loose water in the trunk.
Add a plug-in immersion heater for tea and hot water.
I can't tell if you're serious or not.
I can't tell if he's British or not.
Boa.
Ease and GT, English boa, bottle of water there.
My Polish colleague told my British colleague that when lockdown ends he'll go to the Alps. The British colleague said, "F.A. skiing." And the Polish guy said, "Sorry, what?" So the British guy repeated, "Far a skiing holiday." He then got up and mimed skiing. My Romanian colleague said, in a thick accent, "I'm Romanian and I speak better English than you."
Trapped in a snowstorm, tea and hot water for ramen noodles basically ensures survival until the state troopers find you.
Earl Grey, hot.
Toilet paper, flashlight, knife, wet wipes, blanket, a can of motor oil, jumper cables, and a couple of dollars. This is a kit I put together in every single car I ever had.
I keep toilet paper in my car. Initially it was just something I figured I was likely to forget camping. Then COVID hit. Americans panicked and bought out all the toilet paper. I ran out before stores had finally restocked. Then I remembered the roll in the car. It absolutely saved my week.
I just have mine for work poos. Commercial toilet paper is a goddamn crime, I tell you what.
A device to break a window should you end up in water.
Have seen people recommend to take off the headrest in an emergency and use the metal bars to break the window. Could be a lifesaver if someone didn't have the glass breaking tool.
You know, I would hope I would have thought of that on my own if ever in that situation. But most likely I'd be far too panicked to think of it.
First aid kit, maps, and emergency supplies.
A fire extinguisher.
Removed.
Geese. If a cop pulls you over, and you have upwards of 10 live geese in your car, that officer really has to think about whether or not he wants to deal with that situation.
Or if you're in the UK, a swan. Policeman officers are often looking for them.
No luck catching them swans then?
It's just the one swan actually.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.